I stand here today in front of the American Embassy in Tokyo, a critical location for American and Japanese relations. I had the honor in 1992, when I was a student studying at University of Tokyo, to be invited to the ambassador's residence, Ambassador Michael Armacost, for Thanksgiving. He invited me with other American students studying at Japanese universities because we couldn't be with our own families. And Ambassador Armacost, who went on to be the head of the Brookings Institution, had a real sense of his role as a diplomat to engage Japan in culture, in citizen-to-citizen relationships, and with a vision for what was possible, what could be done between our two nations. He drew upon the tradition established by Professor Edwin Reischauer, an expert in Japanese history, who was appointed by President John F. Kennedy to be ambassador to Japan in 1961 after the Ampo demonstrations in opposition to the Japan-U.S. Security Treaty brought the relations between the two countries to a crisis, much like the crisis today. Professor Reischauer spoke Japanese fluently, and he had studied the history of Japan from ancient times, and of China, and of Korea. He had an understanding not only of the Japanese people, but of the complexities and the unhealthy aspects of the relationship between Japan and the United States. And he worked to try and establish a healthier way for citizens to work together. I was inspired by his work. When I first came to study in Japan in 1987, I had the chance to shake hands with him at an event, and although I thought nothing of it at the time, in the decades that followed, studying at Harvard and teaching Japanese culture and literature and history to Americans at University of Illinois, I thought constantly about his contribution in academics and in government and diplomacy. Sadly, the American Embassy today is a shadow of its former self. The building is still here, but in fact, the website is entirely blank. There are no more events. There are no citizen-to-citizen activities. The only attempt to introduce American culture or education is a section of the website introducing the American Pavilion at the Osaka Exposition. The diplomats that I knew here at the American Embassy have all gone home. Over 3,000 American diplomats and others in other fields have been fired from their jobs by the Trump administration. And many, many more have been completely disempowered. As I know from my own experience and from those of my Japanese friends, the diplomats remaining here, the Americans remaining here, supposedly to represent the United States, are not permitted to talk with people on the outside freely, neither Japanese nor Americans. The ambassador, Ambassador George Glass, came to power, came to fame as a wealthy donor to Donald Trump's campaigns, the previous one and the current, the one of 2024, and was able to gather dark money in large amounts from billionaires to support Trump's efforts. He is deeply connected to the global financial dark empire, and he is best known for his previous role as ambassador to Portugal under the previous Trump administration. In Portugal, his role was to attack the government of Portugal at every opportunity and to threaten that if Portugal had any relationships with China or any other country that the Trump administration didn't like, that it would be brutally punished. This time, his role is to try and reduce Japan to some sort of feudal tributary state. He has played a central role in threatening Japanese politicians. He played a central role in the efforts to destroy the Ishiba administration previously when it refused to go along with this ridiculous proposal that Japanese should invest in the United States unconditionally and that 90% of the profits should go to Donald Trump and his cohorts in the United States in pure profit. As many Japanese have pointed out, this effort was the absolute equivalent to the unfair treaties that were established with Japan in the 19th century and which Japanese had to fight for 30 years to undo. He also has been pushing Japan to buy tons of American weapons, which will destroy the Japanese economy, and has been pushing for the militarization of the Japanese society, especially the use of IT, AI, surveillance, biosecurity measures, which are turning both Americans and Japanese into virtual slaves of multinational corporations. We cannot stand for this sort of relationship between the United States. The embassy has become but a grave marker for a previous potential in our relationship between the Japanese and the Americans. As an American, trained in Japanese literature at Yale, at University of Tokyo, and Harvard, who has dedicated his life to teaching about Japan and promoting a transparent, healthy, and productive cooperation, I say that if we can't have exchanges between the United States and Japan, between citizens, between parents, between students, between artists, between painters, between poets and novelists, and between ordinary citizens pursuing truth, pursuing a healthy society, protecting our environment, responding to the climate crisis, then in that case, we do not have any relationship between the two countries at all. We have to start to build friendship between Americans and Japanese from the ground up. That means that we must reject this attempt to reduce American and Japanese relations to a two-dimensional exchange in which Japan is threatened in various ways, covert and overt, to buy American GMO foods, to buy American, often useless weapons, to commit itself to surveillance by multinational IT firms with a bloody foot in Israel and the United States, and to take other steps which destroy Japan as a country and as a culture, and which are doing the same damage to the United States' health. In that respect, I am pledged to do my absolute best to create a new relationship, a fresh relationship between the United States and United States and Japan, an alliance for truth, an alliance for health, an alliance for nature, for climate, and for the environment, and an alliance for people in which these ordinary citizens, the working people of both countries come together to create new potentials and a new country. Two new countries.